Hello, friends, and welcome back to our SBT Sunday teaching. My name is Venerable Tarpa. I am thrilled to be here once again. I really enjoy our Sunday teachings together. Today, we're going to be exploring the Buddhist concept of wisdom. So, for the last 6 weeks, I've been informally going through the six perfections. And I say informally because we haven't really talked about it much. I just thought in our library of videos, it'd be really nice to have videos of these aspects or qualities in standalone version. One of wisdom, one of concentration, and so forth. So this is the last one of the bunch, which is on wisdom itself, and of course, wisdom plays a big part in Buddhism, right? Wisdom is mentioned in various places. Here's the six perfections I mentioned. Supreme generosity, supreme goodness, supreme patience, supreme joyous effort, supreme concentration, and which we're going to be calling supreme awareness, and supreme wisdom. They have the word supreme here. Sometimes they use the word supreme. In the threefold path, they use the word higher. And in the Eightfold Path, they use the word right. But all are kind of based on the same idea. From the Pali, there's a intensifying syllable that it is a precursor to each one of these. And it literally means higher or more. So when we talk about supreme wisdom, it really means higher wisdom, right? But it's voiced a little bit differently in each one. Because, of course, wisdom is something that all kinds of people have. We have philosophers that have wisdom and things like that, but we're talking about here a higher supreme wisdom, that of high practitioners, of Buddhist bodhisattvas, and regular practitioners that have worked hard and have accumulated some amazing insight. And so that's why we share that like that. And then also, let me make this a little bigger for you. Also, we have in the threefold path, we have higher understanding or higher wisdom. We begin with that, right? And so we have higher understanding, higher virtue, and higher awareness. In the Eightfold Path, higher wisdom is not mentioned, but it's assumed, right? And for the Eightfold Path, higher wisdom or higher understanding makes up the first two, right view, right intention. And then higher virtue, we have speech, action, livelihood. Higher awareness, we have effort, mindfulness, and awareness, right? Okay. Fascinating things, but now you're up to speed. So when we talk about wisdom, we love to bracket terms, right? That's what we do here. We love to take a term like happiness or love that we've heard a million times, in which the meaning is almost completely eradicated, and we don't even know what the terms mean anymore, right? When we say happiness, people often will say to me, when people ask me if I'm happy, I don't even know what that means anymore. And so as philosophically, we do a thing called bracketing. And bracketing means taking a term we've heard a billion times before and taking a fresh look at it, setting it aside and deciding, now, exactly what do we mean by this? And then, of course, researching it and bringing some analysis in to find to come back to that true meaning of what it is. And so we're going to do that, of course, today with the term wisdom. So commonly, I found a very cool definition that wisdom is the ability to apply knowledge, experience, and good judgment in order to navigate life efficiently and effectively. I kind of put a couple definitions together, came up with that, but I thought that was pretty good, right? The ability to apply knowledge, experience, and good judgment in order to navigate life efficiently and effectively. And the thing I like about this definition, it's more in verb form as it is in Buddhism. Buddhism generally looks at terminology in verb form. I think in the West, we tend to look at everything in noun form. We think of wisdom as a thing, right? Wisdom is this vast accumulation of knowledge, this thing sitting on a shelf. Where in Buddhism, and those of you who are philosophy fans, um, has more of that Heideggerian outlook that we look at life, we define life, we understand life through verb like context, right? How things like we don't define a human being as an object. We define a human being as what it does, right? So, anyways, in Buddhism, like compassion's a great example, where I think in the West, when you hear the word, you think of the quality, the thing, compassion. In Buddhism, if you were to ask a Buddhist monk what's compassion is, and he would say, caring for others, right? Actively caring for others is compassion. Everything is verb form. I always try to keep that in mind when I'm working with the Dharma, that everything comes back to that more verb form. Okay, with that said, within Buddhism, wisdom is translated um, from the traditional term prana in Pali and prajna in Sanskrit. Um, so besides the translation wisdom, some also translate the terms as insight. Intelligence is a popular one. Knowledge it would have to be higher knowledge, right? And understanding. And I'm going to talk about that. Understanding is my favorite, and I'm going to talk about why. Uh, in Buddhist wisdom, it pertains to the understanding of the true nature of phenomena, which is gained through understanding the Buddhist teachings. So when we say we're cultivating higher knowledge, we're cultivating an understanding of the true nature of ourselves, the true nature of reality. And of course, we gain that through the Buddhist teachings, understanding the Buddhist model of reality. But wisdom is not merely intellectual knowledge, but also, and often I think more importantly, it's about the direct experiential understanding of ourselves, others, and our lives, right? Maybe you also, when you think of wisdom, you think about men in tweed coats smoking pipes with big beards, accumulating vast knowledge. But I think in the Buddhist sense, it's that direct experiential understanding, right? Gained through real life experience of the world around us, of what life is, who and what we are, how life functions, and of course, all with the wish to understand it and be able to live great lives, right? Okay, hey, I got another slide for you. I whipped up a few slides because you got to entertain, and I know this crowd's a picture crowd. that's a joke. A lot of pictures with this crowd. No, this is a brilliant crowd. So the Buddha says in the early sutras, the Dharma is hard to see, hard to realize, tranquil, refined, beyond the scope of conjecture, subtle, only to be experienced by the wise. So this is a quote that always comes back to me when the word wisdom in Buddhism comes up. So when we start the Dharma, um, here the word Dharma can be used for the Buddhist teachings, but in a sense, I think it's more of a broader truth, right? The way things really are. The Theravada have this expression that Buddhism is about learning to perceive the way things truly are. That's kind of what they mean here by Dharma. The Dharma, the truth of the world, is hard to see and hard to realize. It's tranquil, refined. What a beautiful word that is. Refined. It's not some gross kind of truth. It's a refined truth beyond the scope of conjecture, of argument and debate. It's subtle and only to be experienced by the wise. So the Buddha shares this premise throughout the Buddhist teachings, that the Buddha's Dharma isn't easy, and it takes a level of wisdom to understand it. I think it's a beautiful quote. Just wanted to share that with you. So that's a basic presentation of wisdom from the Buddhist context. I wanted to now talk about how we're going to look at this from an SBT presentation. And actually, I'm hoping to get your help in this. So we've talked about it in the past classes, that, like last week, we spent a lot of time talking about this term of samadhi, which is often translated as right concentration, and what unfavorable translation that is. I mean, so many modern scholars agree that concentration is a really poor word for it. Yes, there's a relation there. It means single pointed concentration. There's a relation there, but the word just does not encapsulate the term samadhi. And so we talked about last week, and actually I think I was asking everybody's permission. I'm very serious about trying to stay with standardized terminology for a few reasons. One, to not confuse people, but also I want our SBT members to be able to communicate to others and to other traditions, and that requires some standardized vocabulary. But occasionally there's terms that are just so bad that I just want to say, hey, maybe we'll be the first and we could start something. But this really needs to be changed. So right concentration, last week we changed to right awareness, and I'm going to start putting that in all of our teachings. And I felt the same way about this week's topic and term, wisdom. I'm less emphatic about changing this because wisdom does work, and as the last quote I just shared with you, it works. It's used quite a bit, but I prefer the word understanding, and I'm going to make a case why. So instead of higher wisdom, I'm going to posit higher understanding. In my own experience and what I've gained from my own practice, what I've gained is understanding of who and what I am, of how life works, of how to live a flourishing life, right? And in my attempt to make Buddhism accessible to everyone, which is one of the goals of SBT. When we first started SBT, I made up my mind I wasn't going to teach some academic Buddhism like I learned in the monastery. I went to a very academic monastery, 10 years. It was intense. I didn't think it benefited me in awakening. So early on, I decided to teach in a very simple way to everyone so we could bring Buddhism to the masses, right? And so with that said, I worry that the term wisdom may create the idea of that Buddhist wisdom is some kind of privileged, exalted knowledge, right? That's out of reach of everyone, almost like a secret club for the enlightened. Sometimes it seems that way. Buddhism has had a problem with this since its origins, with the Buddhist teachings being kept in languages that only the monks knew. Or even before that, Buddhist teachings were all memorized, only monks knew it. So Buddhism was always kind of held as privileged information, and it created this immense hierarchy between monastics and lay. And the monastics became these exalted knowers of the Dharma, almost like super beings, right? And it wasn't until Mahayana came in, and the Mahayana started to print the Dharma in traditional languages that regular people could share that. So with all of that said, I like this idea of calling it understanding. For me, wisdom or understanding is best understood within a spectrum, right? So again, when we're bracketing the term wisdom, what exactly do we mean? And oftentimes it becomes clear when you ponder its opposite, right? So with wisdom, wisdom exists within a spectrum between understanding and ignorance. Now that's according to me. I think most of us would agree with that, right? We understand the way things are, or we don't. We're ignorant to them. But you can also say it's a spectrum between clarity and confusion. For me, understanding is deeply connected with clarity, right? Because we can kind of understand things, can't we? Right? Understanding, like clarity, has many levels, right? You can understand something and then a little while later say, oh, now I really understand it. Or now it's really clear, right? And so it's through the development of understanding that we gain an expansive insight into who and what we are, how we relate to others, the environment, and reality, right? This is what understanding is for me. It's not exalted wisdom. I simply understand the way things are, right? And that's something everyone can gain some level of, right? And this is a wisdom, an understanding through which we transcend attachment, aversion, and ignorance, right? That's my argument today. And I'm curious what you all think. Let me share this with you. Traditionally, there's three aspects or kinds of understanding. There's wisdom or understanding from hearing. Now, hearing means listening, but it also includes study. Then there's wisdom that's gained from reflecting or contemplating. And then wisdom that comes about through cultivation and practice, specifically meditation, mindfulness, in which again you gain a deeper understanding, deeper clarity about the world around you. So that's kind of the traditional idea of understanding those three parts. And lastly, I want to talk about this, that when we talk about right understanding, in another way, we're talking about another topic, which is called right view. And for many of you which will be engaging in our Skillful Living program in a couple weeks, the two are synonymous in Buddhism. Higher understanding, right understanding is the same as right view, right perspective, right? And I thought I wanted to read something to you instead of pretending that I'm saying it brilliantly off the top of my head. I just thought I would read this. This is from the Skillful Living program. Buddhists assert the crucial importance of the relationship between our view and our lives or our reality. A view can be understood as our perspective or mental orientation towards life, which includes our beliefs, our views, our values, our hopes, fears, our goals. Our view is that which establishes our model of reality through which we interpret, understand, and engage with life. Right view is defined as the correct perspective and understanding of the true nature of oneself and reality. For somebody following the Buddhist path, this means having an accurate understanding of the Buddhist teachings and the Buddha's model of reality. Right view is asserted as the cause and condition for the attainment of liberation or awakening, whereas wrong views are said to be the causes and conditions for mundane habitual existence, what we call in Buddhism samsara. In other words, right view represents clarity, wisdom, and awakening, whereas wrong views represent confusion, ignorance, and mental bondage. The premise of right view is quite simple. When we have a proper view and understanding of who and what we are, how we relate towards others, our environment, our reality, we gain a clear understanding of how life works and what direction to move towards. We become more skillful and functional in our lives and are able to make better decisions, which leads to better lives. Does anybody have any insights, comments, or questions at this point? What do you think of this presentation of wisdom and understanding? Oh, one at a time, one at a time. Miss Wangmo, please.
Sorry. Um, as far as the understanding and wisdom part go, the way I look at it in my mind is that when you gain understanding, it leads to wisdom. So I don't see a conflict with using the word wisdom. I think they're tied together, and I feel like understanding leads to wisdom.
So, can you define for us the difference between understanding and wisdom? That's a tough question, sorry.
Yeah. Um,
Okay.
Understanding is like gaining knowledge, and then wisdom is like, I guess I kind of look at wisdom as like a higher understanding, a higher form of
Yeah.
understanding. So to me, understanding is just you're gaining knowledge. Where when I look at wisdom, you're getting like a not only getting the knowledge, you're getting an understanding. You're getting a deeper. It's a deeper revelation to you. I guess is how I look at it.
You know, I remember a really cool quote a while back that knowledge was the accumulation of information and wisdom was its simplicity or its simplification. Oh, thank you, Miss Wama. That's very helpful. David, please.
Yeah, that last quote that you made, I think, is a strong vote in favor of wisdom. The simplicity. Wisdom has a much deeper ring to it than understanding. To me, it would seem that, particularly when we're communicating with other people, then interpreting prajna as understanding is not going to be a good way to communicate with them. I wouldn't say. They'd be much more turned on by the deeper, richer feeling of the word wisdom. And
That's
also, I
very
read what
useful.
Wagner said.
That's very useful, David. Thank you. Anybody else want to chime in? Yeah, Tertium.
Um, the idea of, or like the difference or this is me thinking about like the difference between knowledge and wisdom kind of goes back to the quote from the Buddha about the Dharma itself, right? And that it's subtle, right? And it's that, and that's what is, and kind of what you, back to what you were saying with like the simplicity of it. I could see that. Um,
I agree. But our debate isn't over knowledge versus wisdom; it's understanding versus wisdom. And for me, it's the same debate for knowledge versus understanding or knowledge versus wisdom. Jody?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, reflecting on your talk, it seems to me like wisdom is more of like an embodiment of understanding, like a learned experience. Um, like because I'm thinking about how I could understand like others' point of views or other experiences, but wisdom to me means like living through that and having that knowledge, almost, if that makes sense.
Funny. It's funny how you use the word understanding to explain
Yeah.
wisdom. Wisdom is the understanding of others. No, but yeah, no, I think it's such a subtle point. Ultimately, maybe it's not so much of an issue. That's wonderful, Jody. That's why you're my favorite. Padma?
I was just, thinking about the words like everybody has said with wisdom and understanding. I think understanding is an easy, more palatable word. So I understand why you've tied that in, because obviously wisdom's got connotations of almost being unachievable, isn't it?
Yeah. One day, if you listen to my teachings very well, you may achieve wisdom and
Yeah.
be invited into the SBT Wisdom Club.
I've got another question with regarding wisdom, and I'm wondering what your reaction is to different people's ability for wisdom. Obviously, we've got some very clever people on here. I'm not one of them, but and their ability is much higher than mine. So I'm wondering your feelings on different abilities for wisdom.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like the word understanding, was that again I see the two as being synonymous. I think an argument can be made it's just semantics. They're literally the same word. Higher understanding and higher wisdom. Higher understanding is a great definition for wisdom, right? Um, but the idea is, I think everybody can feel they can reach a level of understanding. Even the simplest of people, they can gain a level of that, where wisdom again seems like a lot of people might feel, well, that's something for the higher people in class, but not me. So again, with SBT, I'm always trying to make the Dharma really available and showing that no, it's not difficult. You can approach the Dharma in a very simple way. Everyone can do it, and it's available and accessible to everyone. David.
How does that square, Tarpa, with the quote that you put up about the Dharma being subtle, difficult to understand, etc.?
Oh, nothing except for the word wise at the end. So the beginning of the quote, should we put it up? The Dharma is hard to see, hard to realize. You could say understand there. Tranquil, refined, beyond the scope of the debate. Subtle, only to be experienced by the understanding. Or, yeah, wisdom is kind of a word for a person who has higher understanding, right? So you could see how I see the words being quite synonymous. What do you think, David? I'm on the fence. I could go both ways. But for the longest time, I've been using the word understanding, especially in informal conversation. When people say, well, what's awakening? And I say, oh, it's understanding who and what you are, your relationship to the world and reality. To me, that sounds very tangible, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Where instead of saying, it's the exalted wisdom that knows the truth of all things and omnipresent knowledge, I don't know. Shiva.
The word understanding, it's or the process, it's more of a neutral, in my opinion. Like you just learn about, say, the nature of something or how something works. But that does not necessarily mean you're going to apply it. It's just learning or something like that. So it's neutral in that sense. But then wisdom is um, typically associated, so that you apply the knowledge or
Wise application.
yeah.
Now
So
that's
in
a
that
now
sense,
that's a great point.
mm,
That's one that I hadn't thought of. Yeah, and understanding is also related to epiphany, right? Oh, I get it now. You know, that understanding. Yeah.
Good point.
Oh, so yeah, thank you, Shiva. That's excellent. You're right. Wisdom, you can understand something and still not apply it wisely, right? Oh, we got a front runner there for ideas. I told you not to invite him. He's ruined everything. Sangpo.
Yeah, I was thinking very much similar. It's about the application of things. The wisdom to apply things correctly and in the manner that is conducive to Buddhism. Because often I always feel that wisdom or the concept of wisdom, when it's used in the religious sense, is almost used as a hierarchical
Yeah,
word, as a, well, you don't have the ability for the wisdom, or, for you to be able to reach this, you've got to. And it's almost like a hierarchical thing, whereas
that's
I
what
think,
I thought too.
I feel in Buddhism, wisdom is quite clearly something that is, in the teachings and the Dharma, that is having the application, the skills for the application of it, the wisdom to do
Yeah.
it wisely, to do it correctly, to do it, in a way that's intended.
Now there is a way we could do both, and that is the idea is that we could leave it wisdom within the presentations of the Dharma, like the Eightfold Path and right view and everything, and then just explain it when people say, "Oh, what's higher wisdom?" And then we could explain it. Well, then we could use the word understanding to kind of bring it down. So we could use the two terms together to maybe be able to appease both words, right? Kempo, please.
Yeah, I think we need a minimal amount of understanding before any wisdom, and that should come first. So when we are born, we are not wise and we don't understand anything. And the first thing we do, we start to understand. And we cannot get any wisdom without understanding first.
So you see them as in relation that wisdom is a higher understanding.
Yes, there is a circle, a loop after that, but the first, in my opinion, it's understanding always.
Simple, common understanding and higher understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the same. Yeah. Thank you. And ultimately, I think it's semantic, right? It's just, it comes down to like whatever words ring true to our ear. Like what I'm talking about is when I hear the word wisdom, it rings, it has this exalted ring to it of special people that have special abilities, where the word understanding to me sounds common and accessible. David.
I want to change my vote. I'm voting for understanding now.
I still like Shiva's point.
That's a good point.
But can we use that same point with just the idea of like common and higher understanding? But again, it is nothing but semantic. We're just used to hearing those words and those phrases, kind of, right? So, yeah, I don't know if we'll come up with an answer today. I've been using them both in my teachings, but I've been really leaning towards that word understanding. It seems like I'm connecting with people on a real human level, and like having new people come into the song and stuff, understanding who you are. Boy, it just seems like that's so tangible, isn't it? That we can all at least get a little better understanding of who we are and what we are. That you don't have to have the wisdom of a Buddha to improve your life. So that was my intention, is to get rid of that hierarchy of it, and which has plagued Buddhism from the very beginning. You know, the whole idea that the monks are superior beings, they have a wisdom that no one else has. They might have a better education in Buddhism, which we can appreciate very much, especially this one. But the idea of them somehow having exalted wisdom, and of course we get higher wisdom through meditation as well. So maybe there's actually some truth to it. Like really intense practitioners who are really studied, maybe they really do have a bit of an exalted wisdom, but I don't think that that's a good message to start people off in. I don't know. But I'm really thrilled to share it and talk about it with everybody. What do you think, Ananda? You're awful quiet up there. He makes me nervous when he's quiet.
Yeah, I agree that wisdom is the accumulation of knowledge and being able to use it.
But
Is
you
definitely what I would.
didn't use the word understanding.
Well,
So
understanding is the wisdom. You have to have an understanding of what you're wise in.
okay. So knowledge, we all agree, is the cumulative of information.
Right.
Let's set that aside. But let's say then the simplification, or the being able to act upon that, do we do that through understanding and wisdom? And are the words synonymous?
I think they are kind of synonymous. It all boils down to the same thing, really, in my opinion.
Padma talks about wisdom maybe being a combination of understanding and experience at a level that makes right decisions easier to make. Yeah, that was the original definition I had for wisdom, but it seemed like the same definition could be used for higher understanding. Remember, we're not talking about regular understanding. We're talking about, in the threefold path, it's higher understanding. In the six perfections, it's supreme understanding, right? So I guess we'll do some more thinking on it. Okay, let's get to some of the meat of this thing. So we get to the fun part of the class where we say, why does any of this matter? I like that. I should have a graphic that comes up with music. Why the heck should I care? And trying to figure out where I am. So the idea is that through understanding and wisdom and understanding how life works, you can flourish in life. It's so simple, right? You could imagine if you live your life, you have no understanding of any real understanding of society, how to deal with other people. You have no skills, you have no education, you're just not prepared for life. Life would be completely miserable, right? And some of us are very fortunate. We might have mentors in our lives. We might have really wonderful parents that have filled us with so much information on how to do life right. Or we get great advice from a teacher or someone who's shared some knowledge and they really helped us to move in the right direction. In other words, some of us have somehow gained some understanding of how to live life properly. Then this includes knowing how to eat well and knowing how to exercise well. The whole thing, every aspect of your life, understanding how to do it right. In the Skillful Living program, we call it the 10 tenets of the skillful living lifestyle. But through that understanding, guess what? It's really simple. You live a better life. I always talk about life is like a board game. So somebody hands you a board game and you decide just to open up the box and start playing it, but you don't know any of the rules or anything. The smart person turns the top over, reads the instructions of the book, and guess what? They're going to beat you at the game. They're going to be much better at the game than you are. Life is no different, right? We need to. I remember Scientologists had the book Dianetics. It was really popular when I was a kid, and they said Dianetics, the owner's manual for the human mind. But it was kind of clever, and it's true that life really needs a kind of an owner's manual, right? And maybe that's what Dharma is for us. How to live a proper life. Okay, next big question. Okay, how do we do it? How do we achieve higher understanding or wisdom? Like all things, we begin by clearly understanding the benefits of possessing higher understanding. 2, to develop the daily determination to maintain, cultivate, engage with higher understanding. We can go through life kind of lazily, not really thinking about things, or we can kind of engage and really look at things and try to act appropriately. They often talk about the difference between looking and seeing, right? Looking, we just turn our gaze that direction. Seeing is understanding what we're looking at. Number 3, try to cultivate and sustain higher understanding in everything you do. Whatever comes up, try to understand what it is, not just react to it. Number 4, higher understanding is developed through the three aspects of understanding. So we talked about this before, the three aspects of understanding, but this Sangha knows it as a different name, and we know it as the three great objectives, right? It's in the Skillful Living program. And if you look at it, they're exactly the same thing. The three kinds of understanding or wisdom are the three great objectives. And it's understanding gained through study, understanding gained through contemplation, and understanding gained through meditation or practice. The first one, understanding through study, not just book study, but studying life, direct experiential understanding, right? Of looking at the mistakes you made, looking at the successes that other people have done and copying that. It's just understanding life itself. So we develop higher wisdom, higher understanding through the three great objectives. In a more clinical example, if you're studying a topic like emptiness, this would be reading a book. Number one would be reading and studying a book on emptiness or going to some teachings on emptiness. Number two would be, once you've studied that, sit down in a chair with a big cup of coffee and try to make sense of it. Now, what does that actually mean? Throw it around in your mind, reflect it, think about it. And then number three, take it to the cushion to get the deepest insights on what it is. And we take that into our insight meditation. Those are the three great objectives. Now, another one that's interesting is there's a traditional presentation of that I've actually just recently come across. I didn't hear about this one before. In the Theravada tradition, they have something called the 8 causes and conditions for obtaining understanding. And number one, dwelling near the teacher or on Zoom. Number two, questioning and inquiring. Number three, physical and mental withdrawal or seclusion. And what they mean is physical seclusion for meditation, and mental seclusion or withdrawal from distractions. So physically, it just means finding some quiet to meditate. Mentally, being withdrawing from distractions means the mental process. So even if you're in a busy situation with all kinds of desirable things floating around, that you have the ability to just set that aside. You're able to put some objective distance between you and distraction. Number 4 is embodying virtuous conduct and restraint. Number 5, being learned and retentive, learning, remembering, and mastering the Dharma. Number 6, exerting diligent effort. And number 7, associating with Sangha. Isn't that a pretty one? And it means being with Sangha, but it also means sharing meaningful discourse or noble silence. So they're saying here that if you don't have anything meaningful to share, noble silence is a wonderful thing to share with others. And the last one, abiding in contemplation of the 5 aggregates. That's the one I thought was the strangest. Not because it's immensely powerful, but they would pick that out of so many things to ponder. But again, when we're pondering the 5 aggregates, we're pondering the 3 universal truths, right? Impermanent suffering and no self. So I guess in a sense, when you say the 5 aggregates, you're kind of pondering the rest. But I would have just said something like abiding in contemplation on the Dharma. I think maybe would have been a better one. I'll make these slides available to everybody on our social media. But I thought that was quite interesting, huh? Any final questions? What do you guys think? How did I do? Was it intriguing to you all? Lots of thumbs up. Yeah. And of course, I think ultimately this is the most important quality in Buddhism, isn't it? we have virtue, we have all these things. The threefold path, we have higher wisdom, higher virtue, higher awareness. And we often say that they're holistic, that one isn't higher than the others. But ultimately, there is one that's higher than all the rest, and it's wisdom. Even Bhikkhu Bodhi, when he talks about the Eightfold Path, he adds two more to it. And he says, well, the Eightfold Path you go through, but you have to then come back to right view and right intention. And right view and right intention come together as the wisdom of awakening. So ultimately, to awaken to be a Buddha is to have this supreme understanding of yourself and the true nature of reality. So, and then that understanding then dispels all of our afflictions, all our limitations. It frees us from samsara. So ultimately, wisdom is the thing that frees us all. It is the aim. But that wisdom can be just an understanding of it all. This wisdom is accessible to everybody. Everybody who will put the time in and do some study and do some practice. Some people it comes to quicker than others. Some people have epiphanies and just kind of get it. Some people have to work long and hard. Some great scholars with a lot of words don't ever seem to get it. They can just sound brilliant, but you realize they're just talking around it. They don't really get it. And I've talked to people, very simple people, who just seem to really understand what that is, right? So it is accessible to everybody. Okay, final thoughts. So today we've explored this incredible principle of higher wisdom or higher understanding. And we're going to decide whether we like the word higher understanding instead. I also shared that I think the term higher understanding, for me and my own experience of Dharma, is ultimately more accurate in my experience. We talked about how higher understanding is understood as the cultivation of right view. So whenever we talk about right view in Buddhism, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about that higher wisdom, that higher understanding that frees us from samsara. And we shared that we cultivate and develop higher understanding through the three great objectives of study, contemplation, and meditation or practice. Okay, with that said, what do we got coming up? So we're currently in the month of June, which is Sakadawa for SBT. The whole month of June, we celebrate Sakadawa, which is a holiday that commemorates the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and passing. It's a time that traditional Buddhism says is a much greater time to earn merit, that all the good deeds you do are amplified 100,000 times. I'm still looking for the mantra for everybody, the amplification mantra. There's a mantra you recite, and then every mantra you recite after that is increased 100,000 times. As a secular Buddhist, I don't put much effort into those, but I don't put much stock into those, but we thought it was just interesting. Other than that, we have our Skillful Living program coming up June 22nd, just a couple Sundays from now. It is going to be a blast. It's our favorite of all of our programs. I believe it is very enlightening. That's in a couple weeks. We're just finishing our spring introduction to meditation programs, which have been hugely successful, well attended, lots of fun, was just great. We'll be offering that whole program, 3 programs in one, in the fall as well. I think that's all I got for everybody, other than the last Sunday of June this month, during our monthly retreat, we'll be celebrating the day of Sakadawa. We'll also be celebrating the anniversary of the founding of SBT and the anniversary of the founding of Tenzin Tarpa. my birthday. So, with that said, let's end today's class with our altruistic affirmation. May all be healthy, may all be prosperous, may all be well, may all be present, free of past regret and future worry. May all abide in constant appreciation, which is a source of great joy and contentment. May all realize their true nature and the true nature of reality, which is awakening. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Boy, did I have fun. It was great to see everybody. Now go out and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye-bye, friends.